Of course, thank you. It's 3:35. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we please call the roll? Clara?
Okay, I have Chair Embler,
Present?
Vice Chair Ponte. Is she logged on yet? No. Commissioner Cantrell?
Here.
Here.
And Commissioner McLaughlin, she's absent. Commissioner Tilka?
Here.
We have 3 present today, and we have a quorum.
All right, so we have no members of the public. Let's just go down to the next item, which is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Anybody have any questions?
I have no comments or questions.
Okay, Paul? This is regarding the minutes? Is your question regarding something in the minutes for the?
Our last work, yes. It had to do with recording, audio recording, a stipulation that employees are not permitted to do that. Is that, could you comment, Rob?
You want me to comment about the proposed rule that says employees are not allowed to record?
Yes.
So, because there's a Florida statute, it's actually a part of the Florida Criminal Code, that you're not allowed to surreptitiously record other people's conversations. You have to gain their permission to do that. If you don't, it's actually a crime. And so, in addition to preventing our employees from committing a crime, it's also, because we're a public records agency, I don't ever advise employees, management, whoever, to be making audio recordings, because then it's a public record that has to be maintained for a very long time.
Okay, I understand. I just had read that Florida is a one-party state, only one of the entities need to give approval to record, is what I read.
The person who you're recording needs to be, it has to give permission to, I put the statute in the actual proposed rule.
Okay.
But you know, I've had it occur at least 3 or 4 times in my career where someone has hidden a tape recorder and
Yeah.
everything, and it's just counterproductive, creates issues, so.
Well, I understand that for sure, so I'm okay.
Is there something in the minutes, Paul, that we need to correct?
No.
No? Okay. Can I have a motion then to approve the minutes?
I'll second the motion.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Okay,
Okay.
and a vote, please?
Commissioner Cantrell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tilka?
Yes.
Chair Embler?
Yes.
The motion carried 3-0.
All right. Before we get to old business, do we know if our city manager, Mr. Gomez, will be joining us?
No, he's currently on vacation in Ireland.
Oh,
cool.
Okay.
Is he's in Ireland? It's not my business or anything, but I teach his daughter, and today's her birthday, and she is an awesome, amazing kid.
She is.
Yeah.
His other daughter is going to Ireland for school, so he's dropping her off.
That's awesome.
Good dad.
That's
Dad.
awesome.
Good
Cool.
dad.
Good for them.
Yeah.
That's awesome that his daughter's, yeah. It's super cool.
All right. I've spoken to several folks, and we do have a very tight time frame. I understand that there's a special workshop starting at 5:45. I'd like to recommend that we do our best to wrap up at 5:15 to allow staff time to do what they need to do. Any problems with that?
I absolutely agree.
Okay, sounds good. So then, I'm going to suggest that for our agenda, we go through old business, starting with the Personnel Policy Manual. Just taking a look at it, I'm not sure that I understand the ex officio board member Robert's Rules of Order. What,
That was a document sent to me by Mr. Contrell to add to the meeting? Because there was questions about the definition of ex officio.
That can wait till another time. 'cause
Okay,
we need to get through- that can
let's
wait till
move
another
that
time.
down to new business.
Yep.
Okay. And it's also my understanding that we were going to wait to have further discussion about ordinance 23-06, affectionately called the rules, that we were going to wait to have further discussion on that until we meet with the Civil Service, I'm sorry, the Board of Commissioners.
Is there a holdup on that? Is there, do we need to make it, in order for us to meet with the Board of Commissioners, do we have to make a declaration of, hey, this is what we'd like to propose as an amendment change? What do we have to do there?
I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
There's nothing I see in the charter or anything. You're just allowed to say, we'd like to meet with you, and you already did
Did we
that.
clarify that the last time? Because we want to talk to them about if an employee is terminated, that we'd like to find out how they would like to, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, all right? But we'd like to find out how they would like to move forward in resolving those issues. So there's currently no method to rehire an employee that's been
Well,
terminated, right?
If I could, Commissioner, I think
Yes.
there's two issues that both have been discussed by you all. The first issue is whoever is civil service protected, what is the due process steps that you would like to have? And I think the main question there is, do you want to create a civil service commission that is empowered to order a reinstatement as opposed to your current advisory status? I think the other issue that we've talked about is at what level do you want to cut off civil service protected versus people who serve at will? You know, do you want the directors to be able to appeal? And we've all had all that discussion, you know. So I think those are the two issues. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Those are the two issues.
The one, and it's more minor, but there's a lot of verbiage differences between roles and responsibilities of the city manager and the city clerk. Is that something we feel that we can resolve
I
ourselves?
think we can resolve that ourselves. I think we can resolve that ourselves.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Now, the clerk has informed me that Mr. Trask would like a more pithy reason for us to hold this meeting. She wants, Clara, you've had the direct
I
communication.
like what the attorney just said. Can you help them with that type of motion? Because he's wanting something precise of the reason for the joint meeting of what you're wanting to do to the charter. And I think what you just said would be perfect for the motion.
Basically, my understanding, what we discussed the last time, is not necessarily that we would be the group
Correct.
that says you're going to reinstate the
Correct.
employee, but there needs to be a process, whether it's us or the Board of Commissioners, and we would like their guidance on who they'd like it to be, and then ask for that amendment to be created so it could happen.
so I think it's a discussion on who has authority to require reinstatement and who is entitled to civil service protection. I think if you boil it down, those are the two questions.
Correct.
I think we have to make a decision on, what are we going to decide about at will or all classified employees? I don't think it's worth taking that to the commission until we've ironed that out.
I don't think we can iron that out. We've all said our piece, and we're not 100% on it, and I
We have-
think that wraps into the discussion of who does this apply to?
We haven't voted on it either, though, for that one. We haven't voted on it to make a decision, what would we like to do? So how do we want to describe it? I mean, I have my own issues and beliefs with it, and you have great recommendations, and where's the middle of that? Yeah.
Well, so I think if you want to take a position before you have your meeting, then I would recommend breaking the two issues apart. So deal with the first one first, which is who should be having the authority to order reinstatement?
Yes.
So somebody make a motion, should that be you, should that be the commission? If it's going to be someone other than the manager, I would highly, strongly recommend it be the Civil Service Commission. Because I want to keep our Board of Commissioners free of being in the midst of employment litigation as a decision maker.
So it's more appropriate, you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's appropriate for this body, if it's going to transition from being advisory only to having authority to order reinstatement, that's where I would recommend it rest. that's usually for cities that have that situation where it rests. The Board of Commissioners is a policy-setting body. It needs to stay divorced from
Understood.
individual
Okay.
employment.
That makes sense. Thank you for that guidance. Sure.
Okay.
All right. Do we make a motion
And then-
on that? Is that what we're supposed to do?
If you want to take a position before you go into your joint meeting, then yes, somebody needs to make a motion and then take a vote on it.
And that one, Rob, that you just described, if we want to do that, that's the one that requires the charter amendment,
That's correct, yeah.
correct? And then the other issue is, who does the who do we have, quote, jurisdiction over, I guess? Your recommendation is that department
Well,
directors.
more writ large, not who do we have jurisdiction over, but what of our employees get to appeal discipline that is put upon them? And I call that civil service protected.
Okay.
And if you're not, then you're just at the will of the manager. And so
Okay.
where shall that line be drawn?
So-
Okay. So those are still the two issues. That last one that you just said doesn't require a charter
So
amendment, right? Just
So that
just
you've
the
had a lot of
ordinance.
discussion about it. Commissioner Cantrell has pointed out some language in the charter, some language in the code that can be argued to say that it has to be a particular way. We all are on the same page on that, but I think ultimately we need to hear from the commission where, from a policy perspective, where it wants to go. Because if it doesn't, if it says, we don't think that the directors should be civil service protected, they're higher level executives, then what we all think in this room doesn't matter, you know, I mean,
Right.
they're this more superior body.
Right.
If they say, no, we think that they do, then we're going to have to come back and maybe work on additional language to put in the code and the personnel policy to make it clear, because at least as I have drafted it, and when we swing back around to the front of the personnel policy, we will see that, at least how I've drafted it, I do not contemplate directors having civil service appeals.
So, because the two issues are separate, I personally I would like to make a motion that we discuss and vote on I guess the Civil Service Commission approaching the Board of Commissioners to allow us to put an amendment forward, I guess, to have that authority to reinstate an employee if they've been dismissed, which means that's an amendment change, right?
Correct. yeah.
All right. I hope I phrased that properly. I don't know if I have or not. But
That's
I'd like
good.
to make a
Yeah.
motion that we vote, discuss, and vote on that. So it needs a second if we're going to do it.
I'll second that.
Okay. So, do you want to start by, I mean, you're the boss. I don't want to, do you want to start discussing? Because I know we have different opinions, and it's okay. So, do you want to talk about where you're concerned there, and then?
Well, just from, in order of, we're supposed to be talking about the personnel policy manual, but I don't have a problem with jumping to this since we are talking about it. Is there anything in the rules that says we can go ahead and, this is okay to jump to it? I don't think there's anything stopping us. Let's just stick with it.
All right.
So, we had a motion and a second to write a charter amendment to allow the Civil Service Commission to be involved in the steps of reinstating an employee. I nicknamed that more teeth. So
Yes.
we had a motion and a second, so don't we have to take a vote?
Yes, are you ready for your vote?
What are we voting on? Just to talk about it? Is that what it is?
You,
I don't know why we're
I
voting
think
it.
you're already talking about it. Let's just be efficient.
So,
Yeah.
do we want
What
it to happen? Do we want to approach it?
Yes.
That's what
Do
we're
you
saying.
want it to
Okay.
happen?
Can we
That's
take a
the
vote?
question.
Yes, I want to approach the Board of Commissioners for the Civil Service Commission to be able to have that ability to reinstate an employee if they have been wrongfully terminated.
Okay.
And I will second that.
Commissioner Cantrell?
Yes, I agree with it.
Commissioner Tilka?
Yes.
Chair Embler?
no.
The motion carried 2-1.
Okay. Is that what is needed to go forward? Is that what we have to talk to the Board of
Yes.
Commissioners,
Yes,
ask for that joint?
Mr. Trask didn't talk to me about what the issue was, but I'll get with him tomorrow and
Okay.
let him know. If he needs more specificity, I'll give it to him. but-
Okay.
Because I think what he wants to do is prepare for that meeting, and looking to see what you're actually doing in your motion about it, he can get his research and everything, be prepared.
Well, I'll be at the
Probably.
meeting, and
Yeah.
so, I mean, really, between the two of us, I'll probably do more talking than Mr. Trask will.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Then the second issue was the at-will discussion. I see value in what you said, where if you actually have somebody that's at a leadership position at high level, that there should be little room or tolerance for disruption in the workforce. That should not happen at all. I also see the value in having sustainability in employment. So there's people that usually make it into those positions, especially here, they've migrated through the ranks. They've come up and they have a historical perspective of what's going on within the city. That can actually hold stability when there's changeover in employment, because that does happen. Where I'm concerned is that if we dismiss, if we allow this to be an at-will position, and absolutely do not want to remove the city manager's ability to dismiss a director when he tells them, hey, this is wrong, he gives them 24 hours, fix it. If they don't fix it in 24 hours, he absolutely should have the right to dismiss the person. That should happen. Because there's a certain level, if you're at that, there's a level of expectation. It should be higher than the expectation for any other position. Because you can't have somebody undermining the city manager. That can't happen. All right, that would be completely wrong. But I do believe for the longevity of the business, for what we're looking at and trying to build the morale and the esprit de corps that you want to have that sustainability of a workforce, that if somebody came in and they just didn't like somebody, being at will, they don't have to give a reason. You're gone. That's it. And you can lose a lot of the history of the city and that workforce morale by doing that. So what I would like to see is that everybody is classified that is not a, what do you call it? It's, that are not the officials according to the charter, all right? So I would like everybody classified. Me as a civil service person, if the city manager came to me and said, hey, look, and somebody contested it, and the city manager said, hey, this is what happened and it's documented, I would absolutely 100% back the city manager. That there is no doubt in my mind if it's valid, you know? But I don't like the idea of just saying, you're at will, you're gone. I don't like what's going on, you're gone. There's no reason, there's no documentation, anything. And legally, I think within our right, if we call it at will, that's what could happen. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct. That's the nature of it. It's, you may be terminated for a good reason, a bad reason, or no reason at all.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
As long as it's not an illegal reason. You
Yeah,
can't be
yeah. Yes.
terminated for gender or for your race or because you whistleblowed or all those things. Everybody's got those protections, even the manager himself. But it's basically you're not subject to just cause. Your employer does not have to set forth performance or conduct reasons why you are being separated.
So even underneath our current proposals that we're working on, there are different levels of issues. And there are certain levels if certain things happens, it does allow you to terminate immediately, correct?
If you can prove it, yeah.
If you can prove it. Well,
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
please.
If you're in that high-level position, if you are undermining the authority of the city manager, that is definitely an issue. That should absolutely never happen in any level of position. Because the city manager, what that person decides, really is the focus of the city, and it's how we need to proceed in the way we conduct business. But at the same time, if the city manager is just coming on board and they're used to doing work in a specific way, and it's not clear to them yet, hey, this needs to be done differently, this is not going to carry forward, that needs to be at least stated and documented. It needs to be there. And within 24 hours, if it's not corrected, I mean, because most things can be corrected within 24 hours, literally, if it's just a change of the way you're operating something. And there shouldn't be major tweaks when you're first coming into a position. And if there are major tweaks, you got to pull more information together. That's not a 24-hour fix. But I don't see why we let somebody go just because of no reason at all. I don't
I
think
think
that's
where we
realistic.
are, we've hashed this out.
Yeah.
there's no new information to help us make a decision, and without judgment, I respectfully disagree with your opinion. I respect the opinion and the logic behind what the attorney is saying. So we just agree to disagree on it. But this is a key issue, and that's why I thought we also wanted to take this to the Board of Commissioners, since they write policy, to see where they are. Because we can sit here and rehash this, but I feel like we're saying the same things over and over, and it's not a good use of our time. So,
Should we take a vote on what do we want? Do we say that all employees are classified that aren't those, Board of Commissioner appointed positions? Is that where we start? I'd like to make a motion that we vote on, is it classified as all employees, or is it all but the highest level department heads, correct? And those would be at will?
Well, see, you're using a generic term, department heads. I
Is it
think.
directors, is that what it's called here?
Well, they are called directors, but some directors are, I think there's the finance director, that's a charter officer.
We can't vote on those, that's the Board of Commissioners.
Right,
Yeah.
but, so the issue is, do you want directors to be civil service protected? Yes or no?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion, we vote on whether board directors are civil service protected. So, if no,
And I'll second that.
okay.
To, not including charter officers, but all other employees.
Yes, not including chart officers.
Commissioner Cantrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tilka,
Yes.
Chair Embler,
no.
the motion carried 2-1.
Okay, Chair Ambler, this is one where you said that this is
And-
one where, do you want to take this to the board? I mean, that's up to you at this point,
Right,
right?
so this is what I would like to do.
I would
is-
like to, before you get started, carry on. Chair Ponte is on Zoom now. She
Okay.
entered at 3:52. I got that documented for the record. So she can participate in the conversations as far as what Attorney Etchenfelder said, except she can't vote. But I don't know if you're doing any more voting, but
So we can hear from her right now, right?
Right. Christine, let's pause. Is there anything that you would like to add to the discussion?
No, there's not. I'm just listening for now.
Okay, that sounds good.
Be late and not there.
Okay, so we've got two motions that passed 3-2, and these are the things that we want to discuss with with the Board of Commissioners. Fair enough?
So are we going to take that to the Board of Commissioners? Because personally, in this case, I'm an opposite with you. I don't believe we need to take that one to them. So it's that, if you want to make a motion on it, then I'm willing to vote, but it's,
You
I
mean
think-
the first one about who does it apply to?
no, the at-will or
The
the
at-will?
classified, the classified. So we're saying everybody's classified at this point. That's how we'll proceed
Okay.
forward.
Then
So,
I agree, then let's go ahead and change it to say everybody is civil service protected. Is there anything prohibiting us from doing that, Rob, without bringing it to the attention of the Board of Commissioners?
Doing that, making that recommendation?
as part of the policy, can we do that? We can do that, right, based on the way the
You mean
charter.
the document we're doing here? Yeah, you could draft it any way you want. I think at the end of the day, the commission is going to need to parse this issue.
Yes.
So I think for us to be efficient, since we're going to the commission on the other issue, just talk to the commission about this issue too, because we're going to be doing so much editing, and then if a majority of the commission
Right.
says, no, we want the manager to be able to terminate his directors for a good reason, a bad reason, or no reason, now we have to go and unedit, so
Right.
it's more efficient just to talk to him about it.
So we're going to go ahead then, and
Both issues.
we will reflect the vote, but we're going to put this on the agenda to discuss with the board. Now, Claire, you had mentioned that the 18th is not a good date for,
we have two civil service commissioners that said they can't come, and we got two board of commissioners that cannot, which one of them is the mayor. But we would like maybe you come up with several dates and times, and then we'll pin it down. And I can talk to them about it tonight at their meeting at 6. And
Okay.
because they're approving the rest of their schedule for the year. and also the one for next year, because we set it, and that way we can get that added.
Sounds good. Christine, I'm going to ask you in just a minute to give us some dates that work for you, but let's start first with Jerry.
Can we, because is it going to be like on one of the regular board nights? Is that what we should assume it's going to be?
If it's a joint workshop, it's at a workshop.
Is
You
that a
can have it on
workshop
the
or a
same
regular
day
meeting,
as
or does it
one.
have to be a workshop?
No, it can be any day
Give me any day?
as a
Okay.
workshop.
All right, okay.
Any day.
So we don't have to fall on one of those normal days that they meet?
No.
Okay, understood. All right.
Are the commissioners, I'm not familiar with their careers. I mean, are we sure that throwing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at them? I mean, I hate to throw a bunch of days and
Yeah,
then,
they like to pick a date. What we do is we take those dates and we usually email it to everybody and find out who all can come to where, and we come out with one
but I
date.
think what Commissioner Cantrell is trying to say is if we know that they're all going to be here for a commission meeting, can't you tell us dates that we could be here 2 hours early or 3 hours early?
That'll work.
Have
Yep,
our meeting,
it's
and then they
easier.
could just roll into their commission meeting.
That way we're not finding a new date.
Right, so I think it'd probably be better if the clerk presents us with dates that the commission's going to meet, and then we say if we're available or not.
Correct. They meet on the second Wednesday of the month and the fourth Wednesday of the month. On the second Wednesday of the month, their meeting starts at 6. So you can have anything 4 o'clock that day or whatever. And then on the fourth Wednesday, they have a workshop meeting at 4 and a regular meeting at 6. Is that right? No, I'm sorry, a workshop meeting at 4. 6. I'm getting confused with all these meetings we've been having.
Okay, so
Budget
then,
meetings, I'm
all
getting
right, so
confused with
then,
budget
so then
meetings.
Wednesday, September 27th.
I don't think that's good because they have I think, aren't they doing their last meeting on the budget or the millage for that day?
Yeah, we're not workshopping that one anymore.
All
So
right,
that's
so
what I was getting
then
confused with.
October the 11th.
Yeah, 6 o'clock
11th.
All right,
and
so
5:45.
I'm okay for the 11th. Is everybody
Six.
else?
yes.
Okay, and then the 25th, is that right?
Just a heads up, it looks like we do have Commissioner Kerr on vacation, so he will not be at the October 11th meeting.
Okay.
Now, I do want to mention something about the charter amendment. I have a deadline with the supervisor of elections because we're having that special election year in March. My deadline to submit ballot language to the supervisor of elections is December the 19th, which means my first reading of a charter amendment ordinance must be in November and the other one in December. So we want to make sure we hash out and get everything done before then, and Trask can come up with a ordinance in November.
Okay.
Christine, are either of those dates bad for you? October 11th or October 25th?
They look okay to me right now.
Okay. I think that's a good suggestion, so if you'll get back to
At
us.
4, 2, 4, what time? It don't matter.
Will it take more than an hour to present what we want and then let them hear it, or would it take 30 minutes?
I say 3:30 is a good time. It may go longer. If it doesn't, then they can take a break before the meeting starts. But if it ends up being a longer discussion, what I'd hate is to bump it so close to the commission meeting and we're not done talking yet.
Understood.
Correct.
So
Okay.
3:30 seems like a nice
I
sweet
do
spot.
too.
And that way the commission gets a break as well, so they can get some dinner before their
He's
meeting.
gonna feed us.
Good plan.
He's gonna feed us.
Pardon me?
She'll feed us.
Oh, okay.
All right, so try for 3:30 at either of those two dates and let us know
Okay.
which one is picked.
Great. I think we've got a plan.
And then I'll let you know tomorrow what they decided.
Okey-doke.
Sounds good. In just a moment, we're going to continue our discussion of the draft personnel policy manual, but I would like to suggest that when you do the new business, could I ask you to please include the items? We're trusting you to do the rolling list for us. And I know the rolling
I put
list
it
is
in
in the
here.
past minutes, but it would be very helpful to have it on the agenda under, the new business.
Yeah, I have it in, well, I think I have it under new business. There they are. It's in 6A. If you turn to 6A, they're listed there.
I'm sorry, where?
6A?
Wonder what happened to 6A?
I don't see it.
Oh, it's on the back.
So it just got put in the wrong spot.
No, it's under new business. It ended up being 6A. New business is number 6.
Well, it just says items to be scheduled for future meetings. I'd like to have those items there.
Yeah, okay, we can list them. We just won't have any attachments to them.
That's okay.
That's
Just-
fine.
Just, we want to make sure that we're staying up with this rolling list that we keep creating.
That works. Yes,
Sounds good?
ma'am. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Thank you, thank you. And now, at long last,
Okay, you ready for
are
K?
we ready to jump into our discussion about the manual? And Claire, you and I had some discussions about what you have printed here. Do you want to go ahead and tell everybody what we're looking at in the handout that you gave us?
Okay, I put in the changes that were made at the August 8th meeting, and also in purple there, you'll see it says revised 8-8, as the chair had asked me to do. It started out on our packet page of 165. If you turn to page 165, we was trying to, I think I've got everything correct as far as what you did. And then you ended at,
We're on 169.
K, you're on K, and I put on there 9/13/2013, start at this section.
Okay?
And if you want to look over what I've done to see that, make sure I've got everything in there correctly.
You want these red, or do you
So-
want them?
Yes, the underlines are the added additions that they made.
My memory is that the attorney was going to be doing the updates.
Yeah, I did it as far as this one because I didn't get those changes. And we were in a rush to get the packet done last week. I never received that. So we went on, even if either one that you use going around, you're gonna make sure everything that you have is gonna be in there. And he can take these and put that in that book that he has. And then if he would send that to me, and then that'll be your book for the next meeting.
So Rob, can you and Claire catch up about,
I'm
I'm always concerned about version control.
Yes, it helps me if we're working with one.
I'm doing the edits. I wasn't aware that I was required to send you back the edits every single time. I've just been doing them. But if I need to send them every single time, I'll send them every single time. It's just going to be a
Yeah,
lot of
I don't think.
photocopying.
Personally, I don't think we need to be, it's a lot of resources. I don't think we need to see it. At the very end, we'll go back through
Okay.
and do a
Right,
quick
If that's your
once-over.
direction today, then we can not put anything in the packet, no book, no nothing, and you'll just continue
Yes,
using what you have.
yep.
Yeah,
that
that was
right?
we'll just plow through, and then you will get, here's the rules with strike-through underline of what the changes you made in this process. You could take one more time through.
Yeah,
I-
okay.
I think that's a better use of time and resources.
Yeah.
This is a
It-
lot of
that would
paper, a
help
lot of
us a lot
trees.
in that way, because these packets do get big.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I also see that we had the additions, Rob, so you got to meet that page 77. There's some yellow highlighted areas. Is that new from
No,
you?
so again, there's areas where I need
was already
to
there.
get with Megan to plug
Okay.
in, what are the current accrual rates and all that. By the time we get to those, Megan and I will have had a chance to do that. So just ignore the
Just
yellow
Right,
highlight, yeah.
good. I think we'll be a lot more efficient. So can we go ahead and, if we go until 5 o'clock, I do want to allow time to get the HR report. Are there any other new business items
The
that we
report?
need to add for today after we go through this?
I thought it was-
So if we stop at 5 o'clock, that'll give us time to get the HR report, and we'll adjourn after we schedule our next meeting. So, all right. I like the way that we did this last time. Jerry, you read it. We paused to say, does anybody have any additions, changes, suggestions. Did you want to continue with
reading?
that? Yeah.
Okay, all right. Searches on city property. Madeira Beach seeks to provide a safe work environment for all its employees. To that end, the city reserves the right whenever a manager or department director has reasonable suspicion to believe an employee has brought us on city premises or work sites alcohol, illegal drugs, or controlled substances, or any other illegal or prohibited item, weapon, or stolen property, or has misused city equipment to search city property, including but not limited to work locations, desks, file and storage cabinets, computer files, including software, hardware, email, voicemail, and internet activity, lockers, locked or unlocked, city vehicles and private vehicles parked on the city property or being used at the time of search for city business, and all other city equipment. On a case-by-case basis, employees may be requested to display personal property for visual inspection. Failure to comply with search or visual inspection request from a supervisory or security personnel will be the grounds for discipline. Searches of any employee's personal property, such as purses or briefcase or lunch containers, will take place only in the employee's presence unless an emergency condition exists, which would, if confirmed, endanger others or the employee, him or herself. Employees who do not wish to subject personal items to possible inspection are strongly advised to leave such items at home. The city will make every effort to honor the personal dignity of employees during any search, but will take appropriate disciplinary action in cases where prohibited items or activities are uncovered, regardless of how such item or items or activity has been discovered, accidentally or in the process of a search. I have no issues.
Does it make sense that if we do have to search an employee's property, that there should be 2 city employees present, not just one?
That would make sense.
So, I mean, it cuts both ways, and I think one thing to think about is that an employee may complain that you're getting into my private stuff, and now it's not just the city manager getting into my private stuff, but it's the city manager and another person that's looking through my purse. And so, you know, you're getting into you're letting 2 people into my private stuff. And the other thing, which hopefully wouldn't be too frequent, is that what if the manager, what if no one else, that second person isn't available? You know, if no suitable person is available, like, you wouldn't, if you're going to do this kind of thing, you don't want to just go out onto the work floor and say, coworker of the person that, you know, who I'm about to search, come and help me look through her purse, you know? So you want a managerial level person there, you know, hopefully the manager himself will be the one, or at least a department head with the knowledge of the manager. Look, you know, I think there's drugs, you know, in this container or whatever, and the manager's on the phone and says, okay, yeah, you know, go ahead and search. But creating a hard and fast rule that there always has to be 2 people, you know, can create an issue. What you might do is word it to where the manager, if circumstances do not, I don't even know how you would say it, but in other words, encourage a second person to be present if it makes sense.
I would not want to say just person, but manager. I would not want it to be a coworker or, yeah, I think it would have to be somebody in at least a supervisor position.
I would
Or depending on what you're looking for, I'd have a police officer. Now, in a recent supervisor class that I had with one of the universities here about 3 or 4 months ago, they had suggested something like that, had suggested at least have an observer. You have they're watching, they're just looking.
Should we
But
should
it's
we
up
say
to
an
you how
observer
you
in
want to do it.
leadership?
They don't have to
some
be
type
the
of
one
leadership?
digging and looking.
Yeah, and an observer in a leadership position. I just think that's good practice.
It's, so 2 people observing, one person doing the inspection, one person observing in a leadership role, right? They need to be in a
Right.
leadership role. That would protect
Can
this.
I add one thought to that? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
The voice. One thought there is, could it work opposite where now you've stated that that's something they should consider. And then the situation comes where it's on the spot and it's coincidental and this is discovered. And now you're giving somebody an out like, well, there wasn't an observer.
How about when feasible? And, yeah, there's,
Unless an emergency dictates or something.
yeah, I think in here, there's language that says if it's an emergency, that emergency condition exists. So if it's not an emergency condition, it should be one person. There shouldn't be an issue with that. But if it's not an emergency condition, the person doing the search and another leadership to observe, is that what language should be used there? Mr. Eschenfelder, do you have any idea?
I'm writing.
Okay.
Okay, so you're good? And you'll come up with the right words, right, Rob? You've got
I'm
our
about
intent?
to read them to you, hold on.
Okay.
Sorry. All right, so then you would add language that says, unless circumstances prohibit, a search shall be conducted by a department director or above, with one other member of management also present. Is that okay?
Yep. Perfect. Okay, can we move on to employee arrest or charge?
Absolutely. You all right, Paul? Okay. L, employee arrest or charge. Employees must inform the city's human resources staffs either verbally or in writing, and either personally or via an attorney or family member, et cetera, within 3 business days of being criminally arrested, charged, or convicted of a state or federal crime, including for violation of parole or probation. Failure to do so will result in disciplinary action.
I'm good?
I'm good. Okay. M, use of tobacco and e-cigarettes. Use of any tobacco product is prohibited within the city-owned or leased buildings, including bathrooms and stairwells, except in areas specifically designated and designed for smoking. Department directors may prohibit the use of or adopt rules related to the use of where am I at? Cigarettes. That's the end of that. I'd like to see that one changed and not say that they have the option. I think e-cigarettes should be prohibited as well.
Act, they added
Yeah.
e-cigarettes to the
I
Clean
think,
Air Act.
to me personally here, I think that, where does it say? Use of any tobacco product or e-cigarette is prohibited within the city. And then get rid of that last sentence.
Okay,
Would anybody have an issue with that?
no. I've got a question. Use of any tobacco product, by definition, does that include chewing tobacco?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the Florida Supreme Court ruled long ago that local governments can actually require complete smoke-free environments, you know, that an employee can't smoke even on their personal time, they just can't be a smoker. And some employees actually did, some governmental employees actually did that because it helped lower their health insurance rates. But, you know, that, unless we hear the manager ask for that kind of a change or the commission asks for that kind of a change, this is sort of middle ground.
Do we have designated smoking areas?
We currently do have one by our generator.
Okay.
Put it next to the
Sounds a
fuel.
little dangerous to me, but
That's funny.
what do I know? Light them up.
Bad. It is quite a bit away, and it is, the generator's up, and it is, has cement walls
Understood.
around it, so we're
Understood.
good.
Sorry.
It just,
Okay.
I was reading, I was going to write down where I read this at, but there was this one place, it wasn't a public building, but it was a business that had a break table outside or whatever, and people would just smoke, but there were people taking breaks that didn't smoke and didn't want to be subjected to the secondhand smoke, so they changed it to where they had to get permission to let them smoke there, or they took different times. Never thought about that.
Well, I guess we've got it covered,
a
so.
little side note here, and you probably remember this, maybe Dr. Tilka as well. When I first started working in healthcare back in 1985, you could still smoke in hospitals. That was weird. Things have changed a
And
lot.
doctors would smoke with their patients.
Yeah, with their
Yes.
patients. Actually, teachers
Okay.
smoked in classrooms. That was,
I
yeah.
remember.
Thank
Okay,
God
let's
that's
go
over
on
with. Let's go on
to city
N.
bulletin boards.
In city bulletin boards and common areas, the city may from time to time establish and ordain certain display cases, bulletin boards, or the like for the purpose of posting authorized communications to employees and/or the public. The purpose of such bulletin boards or display cases is not to create general speech area, but is instead intended to effectively and efficiently communicate information to citizens and employees. Employees are thus prohibited from posting any item not approved by the city manager or human resources staff in advance and not related to city government or city employment. Employees are likewise prohibited from moving any posted notice or item from the city display case or bulletin boards unless authorized, and from posting or facilitating or authorizing anyone else to post or, any advertisement, notice, solicitation, or any other printed materials in, on, or along any common area of any city building or facility. Common areas include but are not limited to break rooms, entryways, doors, elevators, hallways, and parking facilities. I have no issues.
I'm good.
Okay. Oh, communicable diseases.
Yeah.
Madeira Beach government desires to maintain a workplace free from preventable risk of communicable disease, illness or disease. Therefore, all employees of Madeira Beach government are required to properly treat any communicable disease which would present a danger to the health and safety of fellow employees. Employees should, in consultation with their health care providers, take appropriate precautions within the workplace to reduce any infection risk to coworkers. Madeira Beach does not seek to needlessly impose on the medical privacy of its employees, or where a communicable disease or illness is adequately managed and treated, the employee need not disclose same to coworkers or the city. However, should the employer desire the assistance of the city in modifying work conditions to prevent risk of transmission, the human resources staff should be consulted, and any records generated concerning the medical condition will be treated as confidential as permitted by state and federal law. No issues.
No issues.
Okay. P, inventions and intellectual property. Any invention, method, program, publication, or other form of intellectual property which is developed by a city employee during work hours or using city equipment or resources is the property of Madeira Beach. Employees are prohibited from seeking to patent, trademark, service mark, copyright, or otherwise register such intellectual property without the prior authorization of the Board of Commissioners. No issues.
No issues.
Letters of reference. Q, letters of reference. Though all employees have the right to express their personal opinions regarding another current or former coworker, no employee below the rank of department director may write any letter of recommendation, commendation, etc. of city letterhead on city letterhead without the express prior approval of the department director or city manager. I have no issues.
I have a philosophical question on this. I've worked at a number of places where the philosophy is they only give the employee worked from this time until that time, did not give a good or a bad reference. Thoughts on this from a legal perspective?
So there's a little-known Florida statute that I have preached throughout my career because I hate when management says, we will just give name, rank, and serial number. It's so unfair to employees who have worked here but are moving on for whatever reason. And their future potential employers are like, well, we need references. We need to hear how you were. And all they get back is name, rank, and serial number, which a lot of times could imply that there was some issue or problem.
Okay.
So there's a little-known Florida statute that grants us huge amount of immunity for any lawsuit that a former employee may bring about, oh, my reference was bad, as long as we give a truthful reference.
Okay.
So you can say, you know, that, look, according to their prior evaluations, they were, you know, good employee, whatever. Why I have promulgated this rule and developed it in my sort of master rule set is because there were two cases I had in my career, lawsuits where an employee, a sort of problem child employee or whatever, knew that they were going to be out the door. They went to some lower ranking supervisor, you know, mid-manager person and said, hey, you know me, you know what a good job I do or whatever, could you please write me a letter of recommendation? And this person, not knowing that there were all these issues brewing and they were under investigation for all this stuff and were about to be fired, penned a recommendation letter on letterhead. And then when the lawsuit came, the plaintiff attorney put that letter in and said, see, the employer thinks they're good. So that's why confining it to directors or the manager who, if something is going on, those people know that what's going on, and it just creates that control point. But legally speaking, there's no issue with us giving a detailed recommendation, be it in writing or when people call on the phone, what was this person like, and I encourage management when I do management training to do that. It's only fair. And when our managers and directors who are looking to hire people reach out to other employers and say, could you please give me a reference? We don't want to hear name, rank, and serial number. We want to hear, I'm about to hire this person. Are they good or not? So that's my 2 cents.
I'm good with it then. I think I've just worked for too many companies that are perceived to have deep pockets and have been subjected to too many lawsuits, but it makes total sense in the context you described. So I have no issues with that.
We're not asking the chair, vice chair, does she have any issues?
Christine, any questions, comments?
No, I'm good over here. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. R, funds owed by employees' debt collection calls. Employees may on occasion become indebted to the city. By accepting employment with the city, employees acknowledge and consent that the city's authority to retain and otherwise withhold portions of an employee's compensation to allow such funds to be recovered by the city, except to the extent the deduction would reduce regular pay to an hourly rate below the prevailing minimum wage or as otherwise prohibited by law. The city does not authorize or permit the use of city communication assets, including phones and email systems, to be used to make or receive messages related to debt collection efforts. Employees are not authorized to initiate, receive, or forward such communications to any other person or debt collectors. Violating this policy shall be the subject to fines and penalties as provided for by the federal and state debt collection practice laws. Did I miss a line there?
We've got a typo, federal sand, state debt collection.
Okey-doke.
No issues?
No issues, Paul? Christine? Okay,
Nope.
We're good? Moving on to
Good one.
26, use of city vehicles and use of private vehicles for city business. Everybody ready?
Yep.
Here we go. All right. 1, when it is necessary to allow an employee to carry out assigned job duties, an employee may be required to operate and control city-owned vehicles or to operate a personally owned vehicle for city business. When possessing a city-owned vehicle for such a reason, employees may only use it during the course and scope of their assigned employment duties, and under no circumstances is the vehicle to be used for personal business or pleasure, whether during duty hours or not. However, employees may work day deviations. The employees may work day deviations to use restrooms or take meal comfort breaks. Employee may make work day. That's weird. I know what you're trying to say, but it's weird.
Make
It-
work.
it
may
should
with
probably
work
one
day.
word, work
Yeah,
day.
workday is.
Okay, that's
a-
what's weird. All right. Thanks. Like, and I have no issues other
No.
than fixing that.
That's good.
Okay. 2, Paul. Is there a comment in here about personal vehicles anywhere?
You got to get through the whole thing. We
Yeah,
deals with
there's probably
everything.
something in there, right? Okay. 2, an employee driving a city vehicle or a personal vehicle for city business must have in his or her possession a valid Florida driver's license with any required endorsements or classifications.
Good.
3, city vehicles will not be used to transport anyone other than city employees unless the person or persons to be transported are directly involved in the provision of city-related services or otherwise involved in city government operations.
Question on number 2, actually.
Okay?
Does it have to be Florida?
Oh,
Because you technically, I think, have 30 days. If it's not necessary, you might want to just remove Florida.
is that a valid state driver's license then?
Minutia, but I would have the, attorney review that.
I'll change it to state.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we okay with 3, everybody?
Yep.
I have one thing about 3. With our recreation vehicles, we do pick up kids, so they're not city employees. So I don't know if we want to put whether approved.
It's been a month since I read through this, so I don't know if that's covered anywhere else in there. Is that, Mr. Ashenfelder, would that be considered as?
No, I'll write something here in a moment.
I happened to see the bus dropping off the kids. When we do that, do we get the appropriate signatures of parents and so on?
Absolutely. We
Okay.
are fully licensed with our after-school care. CJ does a wonderful job making sure every I is dotted, every T is crossed.
Thank you.
So you would add to the beginning of 3, except as to transporting citizens related to a city program, comma, city vehicles will not be used.
Okay, I'm good with it.
I'm good?
4, in normal circumstances, city-owned vehicles are to be driven over the most direct route. Any out of Pinellas County travel must be pre-approved by the employee's director unless emergency circumstance prevent prior approval.
Okay. I'm good.
5,
Yep.
all right, should I just keep going unless somebody says something? Okay.
Let's do it.
5, no employee shall operate a city vehicle or personal vehicle on city business when any physical or mental impairment causes the employee to be unable to drive. This prohibition includes, but is not limited to, circumstances in which the employee is temporarily unable to operate a vehicle safely or legally because of illness, medication, or being under the influence of illegal drugs or alcohol. 6, vehicles driven on city business must be driven in accordance with all applicable traffic and parking laws, including applicable speed limits. Seatbelts must be used by vehicle occupants at all times. Each employee shall be personally responsible for any fines or penalties incurred as a result of driving or parking violations while operating a city vehicle. 7, any accident involving a city-owned vehicle which results in property damage and/or personal injury will be reported without delay to the operator's immediate supervisor, regardless of whether such accident occurs during or after regular duty hours, as well as to the law enforcement agency with jurisdiction over the accident scene. 8, employees assigned a city vehicle for use to and from work shall be responsible for the personal tax liability for the vehicle of this use. Employees using take-home vehicles must record such use when recording the hours in the city's time and attendance system.
Just want to pause and ask a question about that. Do we currently allow employees to take home the vehicles?
Only an emergency situation like hurricanes where we need to get the vehicles off the island.
That wouldn't be a taxable situation then, so it doesn't matter, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So do we need to amend this, or if we say that they're not allowed to take it home except in an emergency?
I
So
would
I
say
think
prior approval.
you're future-proofing the policy because take-home vehicle could change over time, you know, and so if the manager says, okay, because of this circumstance, you know, you live far away, but you're a valued employee, whatever the situation is, you can take a city vehicle home, we've already got a policy that addresses it. If we
Okay.
don't allow for take-homes, then it's just not going to be applied.
In this case, it wouldn't be a take-home vehicle, it's actually to get the vehicle out of harm's way, correct?
Correct.
Which is a different
Correct.
situation,
That's correct, yeah,
Correct.
that would
It's
have
a
no
separate-
applicability to
All
this
right,
rule.
okay.
All right, I'm good then, makes sense.
9, city vehicles must be maintained in good working order at all times. An employee who observes an apparent safety or equipment defect regarding vehicle equipment should report it to a supervisor immediately, and if the vehicle is unsafe, it shall not be driven further. Employees who have been assigned to take home vehicles shall store the vehicle in a safe, secure area at the employee's residence, keep it locked, and shall take all reasonable measures to prevent damage to the vehicle.
Do we need to mention that any city documentation must be removed and taken in the house?
You're talking about confidential information, not the, like, the property, not the registration stuff, right?
No, confidential city information, you know, you've got a planner that's got plans, you've got, I
There's
can't imagine that there would be
virtually-
personnel information,
There's
but,
virtually nothing that would be in a city vehicle that would not be subject to public records disclosure. There's very little that's confidential. And for sure, no employee should be driving around with an employee's medical file in the car. Those are supposed to be staying in HR in a locked file cabinet. So
Okay.
I don't really know, you know.
okay.
Okay. 10, employees on notice that they should avoid bringing valuable employees are on notice that they should avoid bringing valuable personal items into the city vehicles. The city will not be responsible for the loss or theft of any personal items from the city vehicles. And city vehicles may be inspected or searched at any time at the city's election.
Okay.
11, employees who are assigned a city vehicle or who are using their personal vehicle while on city business must refrain from speaking on cellular phones while driving the vehicle unless the employee makes use of a hands-free device. Employees not using hands-free devices must bring their vehicles to a full stop in a safe location prior to using a cellular phone. Employees shall not text or type on smartphones while driving. 12, employees who are assigned a city vehicle either permanently or on a rotational or pool basis shall not smoke or use smokeless tobacco within the vehicle.
For number 11, should you just call it cellular phones instead of smartphone?
Doesn't matter to
The
me.
last line,
Yeah. What if someone has just a dumb phone?
a flip.
Yep.
You mean a Motorola? There we go.
All right, change to cellular, good.
There we go. 12? Is where 12 we were? No, 12, we're on 13 now, right?
Yes.
Right. Do we need it, a smokeless tobacco that's, we call them e-cigarettes in other locations?
Smokeless could be chewing tobacco. Should we include e-cigarettes here?
So I'll add the word e-cigarette before the word smokeless tobacco.
Okay, good.
Okay to move? 13, no city employee shall order, authorize, or permit any non-city employee, including contractors and temporary workers, to operate any city vehicle, including cars, trucks, earth-moving equipment, airplanes, wow, all-terrain vehicles and boats, unless they...
That's future-proofing.
Yeah, is absolutely required to respond to an extreme emergency or imminent threat to life or safety, and no city employee is available to operate the vehicle. Can you add drone in there? Because airplane is considered a significant of drone. Drones are something I would highly expect that in the future the city could be using.
Okey-doke.
Do have a couple.
You do have a couple, okay,
I'll replace airplane with drone.
all right. 14, employees may not use a city-owned take-home vehicle to engage in personal business while commuting to and from work, including shopping trips, stopping at dry cleaners, or other than to pick up or drop off city uniforms, or picking up or dropping off school children. 15, under Florida law, the city may not be required to cover injuries or damages resulting from use of vehicles by its employees unless such use was in the course and scope of employment. Employees are therefore warned that failure to limit use of city vehicles to such purposes may result in personal financial liability for any such damage or injury to the employee or third persons. Is that correct? Did I miss that? Or third persons. To the extent the city manager determines appropriate, employees being granted use of the city vehicles or being instructed to use personal vehicles to conduct city business may be required to execute acknowledgement forms concerning issues of liability.
Good.
16, authorization given to an employee to use the city-owned vehicle, whether take-home, daily assignment, pull, or otherwise, is not and shall not be construed as being a guaranteed benefit or entitlement form of compensation to the employee. Vehicles are assigned based on operational needs and budgetary limitations, and the city may remove, reassign, or decommission any of its vehicles at any time within its discretion. 17, the city manager is authorized to issue operational procedures which govern the administration of the vehicle policy by the departments. I'd like to add into this with concurrence of the Civil Service Commission.
I disagree. I don't see that as our role to be writing policies.
Is this something that the employee could be terminated for or reprimanded for if we're not aware of it? I don't necessarily want to overrule what he has, but I would like to be able to see it.
I think it opens Pandora's box that you're saying that any policy that they want, if we have to approve this policy, why wouldn't we have to approve every policy he does? And I just don't think that that is our role and don't want to see us that far in the weeds of
One
the
of the
city.
thing, okay, one of the things we've asked for is to be able to see the standard operational procedures that could be a supplement to this document. And this appears to me that it's the same because it says operational procedures. If
But
it's
then it's
just,
already covered. We've already got a blanket statement, so why would we add it specifically here?
Commissioners, can I make a suggestion? First of all, I do recall an earlier conversation where the manager was here talking about administrative procedures, and you all had agreed that once you're done with this project, that you would start looking at all of his administrative procedures and giving him feedback.
Yes.
But circling to the beginning of this policy, which we're about to hopefully get to, there's a more general statement that says the city manager is authorized to adopt administrative procedures that are not inconsistent with this policy for all the little detail stuff.
okay,
If you're going to ask for that to be reviewed by the Civil Service Commission, that would be the place to put it, I
Right.
think.
all right. I think that the SOP
More
for the
global.
departments are make more sense. Okay.
More
So we're
global.
ready to go back up to the beginning?
I'd like to go back to 13 for just a second, Rob.
13, okay?
Where you suggested putting drone in place of airplane, I think more appropriate would be UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, because drones are considered like quadcopters, but aerial vehicles can be a glider or other kind of aerial vehicle.
Yeah.
I think it's just,
I would call it unmanned aerial vehicle then. I
Why
know that-
why don't we just say drones or other unmanned aerial vehicles?
okay.
Sure, all right. Any others?
No? Christine, did you want to add anything?
Nope, nothing to add.
Okay, and Rob, this is the end of your document, correct? The next pages are just other things
Things we're not going to cover yet.
that were, yeah.
It's the adopting ordinance, so that we're back to the beginning.
Yep.
Okay. All righty.
Does anybody know what page that is? Personnel files, employment. I don't think this is it here. That's not it.
It is page
draft.
430, I'm
Nine?
sorry, 41. We
41.
start with the table of contents.
Are you guys okay to move forward to I, which would be page 44 in the brown box at the bottom?
Yep.
The gray
and
box?
We'll go until 5 o'clock.
Okay. And I need to go back in my document real quick. Okay, general policy statement. Excellence in government public services attained in part through personnel systems that reflect merit principles and sound administrative management. It is the intent of Madeira Beach's Board of Commissioners that its personnel policies, rules, and procedures manual provide firm and clear direction to its employees. To this end, every reasonable effort is made to protect the personal rights and privileges of individual employees. Furthermore, it is the intent of the Board of Commissioners that no unlawful discrimination exists in the application and administration of any Madeira Beach Board of Commissioners policy, practice, rule, or regulation. The city manager, through the city department directors, in accordance with the human resources staff, is charged with ensuring that the provisions of the policy are implemented and made known to the employees of Madeira Beach government. Executive contract employees hired by the Board of Commissioners shall have the same authority and responsibility as the city manager where cited in matters pertaining to this policy unless specifically excluded by contract or resolution. These policies are not and shall not be considered an employment contract with any person. Nothing herein is intended to create an employment contract between the city and any person for the purpose of employment, promotions, or for the providing of any benefit. The provisions contained within this manual are and shall be considered as part of the terms and conditions of employment of all regular employees with Madeira Beach and should thus be adhered to by all regular employees. Madeira Beach reserves the right to establish, modify, or make exceptions to these rules when necessary. Any questions concerning interpretation or application of these rules shall be referred to the Human Resources staff for resolution. Excuse me. Madeira Beach may from time to time designate certain positions such as part-time, temporary, initial probationary managers or directors as serving at the will of the city manager and exempt from regular employee status. In such cases, the provision within this manual regarding regular employees, including just cause and disciplinary appeals, are inapplicable. Madeira Beach endeavors to include a comprehensive overview of the rules and policies governing employment with Madeira Beach within this personnel policy manual. However, there may from time to time be additional personnel rules or policies issued by the Board of Commissioners. The city manager or a particular department head may also issue additional rules, so long as the additional rules do not conflict with the provisions of this manual. All such additional rules shall also constitute a part of the terms of employment. Violation of any provision of such additional rules will subject an employee to discipline. If a direct conflict exists between policies and procedures included in these rules and a current labor agreement to which the city is party, the terms and conditions of the labor agreement shall take precedence for the employees and classifications represented by the bargaining agreement, whether the right and benefits are greater or less than those provided in these rules. Can we look at that part first? Is
Yes.
that all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Comments, thoughts?
This says executive contract employees hired by the Board of Commissioners. Why does that not read charter officers of the city of Madeira Beach? Does that mean the same thing?
Well, if you get to the charter officer, at least for now, how you're structured is you don't have an employee for, I think the treasurer is called a charter officer, right? And
Yes.
so I don't think he's an employee, and Mr. Trask isn't an employee. And this personnel manual deals only with employees. So that's.
But
go
this
ahead.
says that shall have the same authority and responsibility as the city manager where cited in matters pertaining to this policy unless specifically excluded by contract or resolution. Is that setting responsibility or is it delineating who's responsible? What is this doing? It's the one that reads executive contract employees. So it's the fourth paragraph. Executive contract is that there's only one person that I'm aware of that actually has an executive contract, which is the city manager. Is that correct?
It would be mostly applicable to if the city ever created a deputy city manager position and hired them by contract. But we could just take it out for now, I think, so that we don't create any issue.
Are you guys okay with that? Because
Yes,
I
that's-
don't,
That's fine.
Okay, taken out,
yes.
right?
I would like to also say though, if the Board of Commissioners disagrees with us on the at-will thing, I think we should go back and revisit that.
Yeah.
All right?
We'll probably revisit some things after that
Okay,
discussion.
all right.
Definitely.
In the paragraph for the provisions contained within this manual shall be considered as part of the terms and conditions, I would like to remove any reference to regular employees. For right now, it should be all employees. Because there's a differentiation in this document between regular and at-will. The provisions contained with this manual are and shall be considered as part of the terms and conditions adhered to by all city employees.
Okay.
Is it right to establish, modify, or make
So,
exceptions and rules?
it's important for you to flow through the terminology that I use in this document. And if you
Okay.
turn over to subdivision, I guess it would be Roman numeral 1, capital A, employment.
Which item?
It's right after the equal employment opportunity. It's the
Page
very
15.
first section of the code, section 1.
I see
Employment.
1A, but where is I'm sure you got a definition, and that's what you're trying to bring me to.
Yeah, non-temporary parentheses, regular employment.
Right here?
Yeah, and so what we're doing is separating out temps, and we don't
Okay.
want temps to
Understood,
be.
all right. Then I'm good with that. Thank you for clarifying that.
problem.
All right.
Where I delineate at-will and civil service protected, I will I use the word at-will. But all employees, including directors, are regular employees. But we just need to separate them out from if we ever hire temps. Temps aren't given any of these rights.
It's interesting because honestly, as I reread this with descriptions you provided, the next two paragraphs I was concerned about, but I'm not. It makes sense to leave it as is. All right,
Rob, is this the right place for us to put that blanket statement, talking about people can come up with their own policies, but they need to be reviewed by the Civil Service Commission? Is this the best spot for that blanket statement?
Sure.
It's the second from the bottom paragraph, Madeira Beach endeavors, and then it says, the city manager or a particular department head may also issue additional rules, so long as such additional rules do not conflict with the provisions. They shall constitute part of the terms of employment. I'm just seeking the best place to put the language in that you suggested, that,
Hold on, I'm writing.
while we're on that, I'll wait to speak it out loud.
So my recommendation is that it would say, the city manager or a particular department head may also issue additional rules, so long as such additional rules do not conflict with the provisions of this manual, comma, and have been reviewed by the Civil Service Commission, period.
I'm
Okay.
good with that.
All right.
Christine, are you okay?
Yep, good over here.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to discuss in the general policy statement?
No. Paul, you good?
That I want to throw something out. I don't recall, Jerry, I know you've not been through this before. I don't remember, Christine or Paul, at what point you jumped in. I know that Judith Ann and I started at the very beginning, and we've done this. Is it a better use of our time, rather than having, read each and every thing, just ask, does anybody have anything to add?
It's up to you guys.
I think if the presumption is that everyone's come to the dais here prepared, poor Commissioner Crantel is going to go hoarse by the time we're done.
That's my thought.
And so I'm
that-
just thinking, next section, any questions, next
Right.
section. and-
I'm good with that.
That's what we did
But
before.
I got to tell you, it doesn't matter to me because as a teacher, I'm used to talking.
Yes.
So it's-
Yeah, I just want to,
I'm
preserve your
good.
voice, but
Let's move
more
it.
importantly.
Let's move through it
Let's assume
quicker.
everybody does
Yep.
their homework, please.
Yep.
And so now I'll let your voice rest and I'll ask the question. Next section, equal employment opportunity, bullets 1, 2, 3, 4. Anybody have any comments?
I have a question on 1 and a comment on 4. On 1, and I don't know if this, I think the way it's written is probably exactly the way the law reads. And it's only because things that I've seen that I'm concerned. After marital status, is it appropriate to add sexual orientation or gender identity? I don't know if that's applicable towards law in the state currently.
Well, so the United States Supreme Court a couple of years ago ruled that Title VII's reference to gender includes sexual preference or sexual identity, whatever, however you want to parse that. And so you can add it, but the way federal law works, and state law incorporates federal law, so the Florida Civil Rights Act also incorporates it, you'd be being redundant.
So this is protected, is what you're
It
saying?
is absolutely, yes.
All right, that's the only thing I was concerned about.
Yeah.
I just,
Number 4, Jerry, you've got
number
something?
4, when I read this, I need to make a note for myself. It is okay as, just trying to make sure I make notes when I'm like, because that way I don't come back at a later date. I said I wanted this, and I know that, okay, no, this is fine. 4, down at the bottom, after the paragraph from I think it's the second to last, it says human resources staff. Then it goes on to read who will conduct an investigation in accordance with the applicable portions of this policy. So they're talking about discrimination. Do they need to inform the Civil Service Commission? And it will conduct the investigation, or is it, what is the reality here? I don't know what
No,
we should be doing.
so the the reality is that because you're a sunshine body, you can't conduct an investigation.
That's not it,
You know,
okay. All right.
when an employee comes in and will say, I feel that my boss is sexually harassing me, or I feel that I did not get that promotion because I'm African American. So then HR will take that complaint and say, okay, we now have a complaint, so we're going to do just like the EEOC does. We're going to assign an investigator to it, and we're going to investigate. So then you start with, first of all, the complainant, and you call them in a room, and you interview them. Okay, tell me what what evidence do you have, blah, 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 tell me what's going on, take notes. Then you go out and you call in the other witnesses, or you go and you review emails. If the employee says, my boss, part of the harassment is he sends me, naked pictures all the time or whatever, then you go and you look at the email and say, what's going on with the email? Whatever it is, you guys just are not suited to do that, as a sunshine board. Management does the investigation. Management will often, especially for smaller employers, if it doesn't have the in-house resources, may call in a consultant or a lawyer or something to help that investigation. I know, for my clients, when the investigations occur, whoever gets assigned to do the investigation will work with me and say, okay, here's what I'm finding so far. And then I would say, you need to dig further here because, we're all interested in making sure that the complaint is thoroughly investigated. So whatever the outcome is, the employer is protected. We either need to find out that someone did something wrong and fire them, or we need to find out that it's not a valid claim and exonerate them. But a poor investigation is the worst thing you want to do. You want to be as thorough as you can. But that really, and it also requires someone who is qualified to do these investigations, who knows what is Title VII, what is the ADA, all that kind of stuff. And some of you may come here with more knowledge than not. I know Commissioner Cantrell, you'd probably make a great investigator, but, as a body, it's just not the place to do an investigation.
Understood, thank you, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to the next section, which is employment. This is where we defined non-temporary / regular employment. Let's just address items 1 through 7.
I have questions, because I don't know what's the best practice. I know things that I've seen done in the past, so I have questions regarding, so 1, I don't have any issue with. 2, notices of open positions will be published interdepartmentally and/or, I think is what it reads, publicly, is that correct? And/or publicly, according to the department's request and concurrence of the Human Resources Department. I do know that there's times when you're looking at your internal resources, because there's people that deserve to get promotions, and you want to target those people to put them where they belong. I get that. Is there ever an instance where you would not want to at least post it to find out if there's candidates?
We always post a position, whether we know we have an internal person or not, so that we can get the other applicants and it is fair.
Can we change that to where can we change the wording of this to where it reflects that? If it's just a small change, a tweak?
Well, so here's my feedback. That is what the city currently does, but this language provides the city an additional tool to not do that.
Okay.
And let me just walk it through with you. It's y'all's decision, but let's say that you have a situation where you've got an opening that's been created, and there is someone within the organization who you feel has been just a fantastic employee, a loyal employee, and they deserve this promotion. If you open the position up, you may well get an external candidate who's even more qualified. And now you're in the uncomfortable position of having to not pick that person because you want to promote the person from within due to morale issues and to allow people to see a path forward in this organization. Because in a lot of positions, given a marketplace of what it is, you almost always can find external candidates who are as good or better than an internal candidate. In a run-of-the-mill, apparently the city of Madeira Beach wants to do that. But there could come times where an employee may sit there and say, I've been here 20-some years, and I might not have as good a degree as the person from Pinellas County government or whatever, but I can do this job really well, and the manager just wants to give that job to that person. But if our rule, which is it should be, is we hired the most qualified individual, once you open it up to everyone, you got to hire the most qualified individual. So now your internal candidate, who you wanted to promote, becomes not the one that gets the job. That's why my recommendation is leave the tool in there. The default apparently is we advertise everything, but there could come a time where you want to say, we just want to give the job to this particular person.
Okay, so in that case then, if, I don't know enough about the positions within the city, I know there's less than 100, all right, but if there's a degree that is required to fill a position or some specific type of certification, is that always going to be a prerequisite to fill those positions?
Not necessarily, as long as we have it in a plan that they are going to obtain that certification or degree within a certain amount of time, then we can go forward.
What time frame would it be? Because that
I think it
concerns
depends
me.
on what certification and degree and how long it would take. For instance, if you were to go for a master's program, you're obviously not going to take a full load every semester, so you might be looking at 1 or 2. So we just have to look at what
Okay.
that
Well,
certification
I'm
degree
thinking
is.
there may be jobs that require to have at least an undergrad, and if, there are many ranging skill capabilities. And
Yes.
I don't want to downplay anybody that doesn't have an undergrad, because you can do just as much as somebody that doesn't have one.
Sure.
But if the job specifies an undergrad, it will take more than 4 years to fill that. I don't think that's acceptable. So that's something I want to make sure we avoid. So similar thing is if a job requires that you have a master's, I don't know if we have anything here that requires a doctorate, but if you have a job that requires a master's, if you're already in a master's applicable program, then I think that, yes, that's suitable to consider. But if you haven't started it and you're not going to finish it for 3 years, then there should be a candidate that fills that position. That I
So,
don't know
Jerry,
how
I
to
want
approach
to.
that. Oh, we need to wrap it up?
It's good,
Yeah.
it's good discussion. I just want to remind everybody that I think you were instrumental, and the city's done a great job of getting all of the job descriptions, the minimum mandatory requirements, and so on. And, as you know, when we get the monthly HR report, we can certainly ask, okay, I see you're hiring this person, do they meet the requirements? But to have to go in and change any language here, it's getting too specific.
Personally, I think that would lie in the job description because we can specify a certain degree and/or amount of time in the job to make up for that.
And you get to see those descriptions, so.
Yeah,
Okay, all
we've
right.
got those.
That makes sense to me,
Yeah.
too.
Improve
Thank you.
those.
That's the only thing I'm concerned about. is
And the
that-
other thing, so some employers in their job description, they do say 4-year degree or equivalent experience,
experience,
or
yes.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is that if you have a position that requires a certain certification, and it's usually not a degree, that's a long time, you're right, but a certification. And so what I've always advised management is put it in the conditional offer. I'm giving you this job because otherwise you're really good, but you need this certification, you don't currently have it. I'm giving you 6 months because that's what I believe it would take. If you don't get it in 6 months, you will be separated because it is a requirement for your job. So
That makes sense. Stuff like that's where I'd be concerned.
And
But
that
you're
is
right, you
something
could
that
put
we
that
do in the
the-
offer letter as well,
But you could
currently.
put that in the
Job
job
description.
description. That's good. Okay, we need to wrap up, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
So let's everybody make a note that we stopped section 1A. We've gone through bullets 1 through 7, and we'll pick up
Gone
the
through
next
bullets 1
time.
through 2.
Oh, I'm
We've gone
sorry.
through bullets 1 through 2.
Oh, that's right, I asked. So only 1 through 2.
Yeah.
All right, so you've got some comments on other things? Thank you for that. And we will pick up with the same philosophy. We're not going to read everything. We're going to say any comment. So it behooves everyone to make sure they take a look ahead of time so that we can move through this.
What is our next meeting date?
Before we will do that, but first go into our new business item. That would be the HR report. So Megan, I think you handed out copies, right? let's
I
do
do
that.
apologize, I was late on that, didn't make it in the packet. I did email Christina a copy as well, so she should have that in her email.
Okay.
I do, thank you.
So for the HR update, we do have 5 positions. Currently, only 4 are advertised on our website. The firefighter position has been closed. We are going to be doing testing on Monday for 6 applicants out of 17 that applied.
Wow.
Okay.
Is this those expanded positions where they're adding new employees?
I believe that all of these are turnover except for the firefighter that's new.
So the public works technician, all these others are turnover? Is that,
I believe so, yes.
okay.
Is there, God, I don't know, at some point, and this is probably, it's not the time right now to go through all of it. I'd like to know when we see it, I personally would like to see what is the turnover to see if there's something we need to address.
Sure.
In other words, if they're only lasting 6 months, okay, what's wrong?
Well,
I don't think
unfortunately,
that's
some
the
of them,
case.
it's the nature of the position, like our sanitation. I think you're just going to have high turnover in that position a lot, unfortunately. But the other ones, yes, we can certainly look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, sanitation, they're always going to try and find that higher pay.
Yeah.
Do you guys do separation surveys?
We do not. That's something that we could certainly do.
I'm pretty sure Christine Fontaine, she was working on something to do a survey, wasn't she, or was that
We
something
were
different?
working on an employee satisfaction survey, but I don't think separation
wasn't
has been
that.
brought up.
Number
Okay.
8 on the list is employee satisfaction surveys, but we can add employee, what's it?
Exit interview.
It's an exit interview,
Termination.
exit interview survey.
Yep.
Surveys, okay.
Yeah, I think those are very helpful. Sometimes the employee doesn't fill it out, but, a lot of times it's very revealing to say, because you think maybe they left because of pay, and it wasn't. It was some other reason, so it's helpful to get those papers back.
Agreed, thank you.
We do actual interviews at my company. I don't know if that would be too much, but
We can probably give them the option of doing like a Survey Monkey thing, so if they don't want to talk to the individual about
I
problems.
honestly, you guys can do what you want, but I honestly don't like in-person interviews, because what spills out of the mouth, and then if what spills out of the mouth is, and I've been being discriminated against, how do
Address
you,
it.
Good
so
point.
I like to get the piece
Yeah.
of paper, and then if we see on the piece of paper, they say, I've been discriminated against, then we can circle and follow up with them and say, would you like to, we still would allow you to do a complaint, here's the form to fill out. But you're putting somebody in a situation, they may hear something that's like, oh my gosh, what do I do now,
Yep. Good suggestion, so we'll add that to the list. And the onboarding with Paycom, can you talk about how this is going to change the current practice?
A lot less paperwork, which is really nice. The employee is going to be able to do a lot of it prior to the first day, which is going to get them right into the job, so we can take care of the direct deposit stuff, all that good stuff online there. The handbook will always be on Paycom, so they don't have to go searching for that as well, which I think will be very beneficial.
And does that connect to the clock-in?
It does.
It's all part of the same, so it's a different part of the system.
And
Great.
employees as well will be able to upload any certifications, so we're going to hopefully go fully paperless with our employee files.
Yay,
Good deal.
awesome.
You guys still own the data though, right?
Correct, yes. If we do separate with Paycom for whatever reason, we do own the data. They will give us a download, and we can go with that to the next company.
Okay. Good, good.
congratulations. That's a big deal.
Big step, yes.
Huge step.
Any other questions or comments for Megan so far as HR? No? This will be helpful to review, so.
Yeah.
Okay, considering where we are, I think it makes sense if we go ahead and adjourn, and we save our next new
You
business.
want
Oh,
to pick meeting dates?
Pardon
Oh,
me?
meeting
Yeah,
dates.
oh, that's true, thank you.
The next meeting date will
Distracted here.
close in October with a joint meeting.
That October was like the 11th or the 25th, right?
Correct. I always sit back and say, to those of you who have full-time jobs, let you go first.
I would To me, if we're going to meet on the 11th to talk with the joint committee meeting, I think that should be specifically to address the issues that we're putting before with them, not anything else.
Correct.
If it's the 25th, then we do it on the 25th, but could we, I don't know how it works for you, but can we use one of those dates to have a meeting to keep moving forward? And the other date to, are you guys okay to meet twice in a month?
Oh, yeah.
And the other date to move forward?
You mean like meet earlier in that day as a civil service?
No,
and then
so
move
like
into-
if they're meeting on the 25th, we meet on the 11th. If the joint meeting's on the 25th, we meet on the 11th. If it's on the 11th, we meet on the 25th to continue on with our stuff.
That works.
I think that makes sense. Good suggestion.
So I'll let y'all know tomorrow, and I know that, being that you stated on the record how that's what you want to do.
Yep.
So I'll let you know what the commission decided, then we know that next meet, the other meeting will be when you meet. And at what time?
Christine, what time works for you?
I'm good with 3:30. That, just keep that same time.
Okay.
Okay?
That works. Okay. And we'll let Judith Ann know she'll be back in the country.
So the 11th and the 25th is what we're guessing on, right?
Yes.
Okay. And 3:30 both times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
That's, it's like the weirdest thing. That's the one thing I don't write down before I leave. I have no idea what we're meeting.
I always would. I would also like to announce that my position, my role, will come to an end at the end of October, and I have decided to not reapply. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, but I've got a lot of things going on right now with the family and other commitments, so just want to give people a heads up, be thinking about, do you know other people that want to be on? I don't know Judith Ann's intentions,
We've
but we
got-
have at
yeah,
least 2
yeah.
openings, right?
We've got them advertised.
And do you have anybody that's submitted an application?
No, we just started advertising the one
Okay.
for civil
Okay.
service.
Sorry to see you go.
And
Well,
you
thank
said it
you.
on
I'm-
It's a short time. I know you're valuable.
Oh, we got a new
Yeah, but then,
updated
good
one.
news is now we can talk.
We have an updated one.
We'll update it online. We'll update the seat openings online. I think a lot of it kind of got buried with the hurricane stuff.
Right.
So we'll put that out
So
again.
we got behind during all that. And we had to have an emergency meeting and all this stuff. But anyway, I've updated the advertisement for that.
Okay.
And we'll send that out to you. And we're gonna put it on Constant Contact, so everybody will see it. And, I think we sent y'all some applications. You can do whatever.
Just
So,
spread the word in the community.
That's right.
Something for you to share with the staff and employees. The job of communicating the stuff regarding FEMA to the citizens has been excellent. This is like one of the best times I've seen, not hurricanes are best times, but it's one of the best times I've seen communication getting out. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, good.
How about trash pickup?
Anything else we need to discuss? No, we covered a lot of good territory, so whether it's
think you did a
official or
good
not,
job.
I am declaring this meeting adjourned.
5:13.
5:13.